In this life, always cherish the genuine people around you. Hold that your partner that genuine love and care for you tight, because if you let go today because you think you have become better than them or you think they are no longer your spec, one day you will only have their memories to hold on to and it will be too late to turn the hand of time. This is the case of Alex Olayemi.
Hello my love, welcome to Stories with Oge Pleasure. Please subscribe and leave a like for us. It means the world to us. Please share the video with friends and loved ones. Also turn on the notifications to get notified for next stories. Sit back, let's dive into the story.
Alex Olayemi was the definition of success in Abuja. At just 32, he had built an empire in real estate, owning luxury apartments in Wuz, Maitama, and Asokoro. His tall, commanding figure, sharp suits, and expensive cologne matched his reputation as one of the city's most eligible bachelors. But Alex wasn't always this man. Years ago, Alex was just a young man from Gwagwalada, a suburb on the outskirts of Abuja, where life was tough. His parents were traders, struggling to make ends meet, and Alex, being the firstborn, carried the weight of the family's future. It was during his final year at the University of Abuja, studying urban and regional planning, that Alex met Rosie. She was a soft-spoken girl with a radiant smile that could light up a room. Unlike Alex, Rosie came from a middle-class home in Garki, but she admired Alex's ambition and determination. Their love blossomed despite Alex's limited means. Alex had big dreams, and Rosie supported him every step of the way. She was there when he couldn't afford to pay his rent in their shared off-campus lodge. She stayed up late with him as he worked on proposals for investors. Rosie even lent him part of her NYSC allowance to start his first project, flipping a dilapidated house in Kubwa into a livable rental unit. Despite their struggles, they found happiness in the little things. Dates were often simple, sharing a plate of masa and suya at a local spot or taking walks at Joby Lake Mall, where they dreamed of a better future. Things began to change for Alex when his first real estate project caught the attention of an influential investor, Alhaji Musa. Impressed by Alex's ideas, the Alhaji offered him a partnership. That deal opened the doors to wealth. With each successful project, Alex's portfolio grew, and so did his bank account. Soon, Alex traded his old Toyota Corolla for a sleek black Range Rover Velar. He moved out of his modest two-bedroom apartment in Gwagwalada to a duplex in Guzape. Rosie celebrated his wins like they were hers, always reminding him to stay grounded. But as Alex's lifestyle changed, so did his priorities. He became busier, attending meetings and networking events with Abuja's elite. Rosie, still working as a primary school teacher, began to feel the distance. Rosie started noticing subtle changes. Alex no longer called her my queen like he used to. His sweet texts became fewer, and their weekend hangouts became rare. When they did meet, he seemed distracted, his eyes always on his phone. One Friday evening, Rosie prepared a special dinner at his new duplex to celebrate his latest deal. She arrived early and set up the table with scented candles and flowers. But Alex walked in late, dressed in a Versace shirt and reeking of expensive perfume. "Babe, what's all this?" he asked, gesturing at the table. "I thought we could celebrate your big win together," Rosie replied with a shy smile. Alex sighed, dropping his car keys on the marble counter. "Rosie, you're overdoing it. I have another meeting in 2 hours. Let's keep it simple, okay?" Rosie felt a lump in her throat but forced a smile. "Okay, no problem." That night, as Alex scrolled through his phone, Rosie sat silently, wondering if their love could survive his new lifestyle. Within weeks, Alex's transformation deepened. His circle of friends now included wealthy socialites and influencers. Lavish parties at exclusive lounges in Wuz replaced their quiet movie nights, and expensive champagne became his drink of choice. He had become a regular face at Abuja's high-profile events, gala nights at Transcorp Hilton, exclusive pool parties in Maitama, and late-night hangouts at Sky Bar Lounge. His name was now synonymous with wealth and status, and women flocked to him, drawn by his aura and deep pockets. Rosie, however, still held on to the man she had loved from the beginning. She believed Alex's extravagant lifestyle was just a phase and that he would eventually remember the life they had built. One Saturday morning, Rosie decided to visit Alex unannounced. She had noticed he rarely invited her over to his house in Giuseppe anymore, and their calls were becoming brief and transactional. Hoping to surprise him, she arrived with a bag of groceries, intending to cook his favorite dish, bunga soup with fresh catfish. When she got to the gate, the security man, Hassan, hesitated before opening. "Auntie Rosie, Oga no day tell us if anybody day come," he said awkwardly. Rosie smiled. "Don't worry, Hassan. I'm here to surprise him." The unease in Hassan's eyes didn't escape her, but she brushed it off. Inside the house, Rosie was struck by the changes. The once cozy duplex now looked more like a bachelor pad, with loud furniture and expensive art pieces that screamed luxury. As she busied herself in the kitchen, Alex returned home. His reaction wasn't what she had expected. "Rosie, what are you doing here?" he asked, dropping his designer shades on the counter. "I thought I could surprise you," she said, turning to him with a hopeful smile. "I brought groceries. I'm making bunga soup." Alex sighed heavily. "You should have called first. I already made plans for today." Rosie paused, her heart sinking. "Oh, I just wanted us to spend some time together. We haven't had a proper weekend in months." Alex didn't respond. Instead, he walked past her into the living room, where his phone buzzed with notifications. Rosie stood there, feeling like an outsider in the home she used to feel so welcome in. Over the next few weeks, Alex's behavior became more blatant. He started canceling plans with Rosie, always with vague excuses about business meetings or last-minute trips. When they did meet, he was distracted, glued to his phone or taking calls. One evening, Rosie decided to confront him. "Alex, what's going on? You've changed," she said, sitting across from him at a restaurant in Woos. "Changed? How?" Alex asked, his tone defensive. "You're not the same man I fell in love with. It's like I'm no longer part of your life." Alex leaned back, sipping his wine. "Rosie, my life is different now. I have responsibilities, connections to maintain. You won't understand." Tears welled up in Rosie's eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "So where do I fit in? Or have you outgrown me?" Alex didn't answer, and that silence said more than words could. Behind Rosie's back, Alex's escapades grew bolder. He began seeing multiple women, some of whom were Abuja's most sought-after slay queens. These women adored him for his wealth, and Alex reveled in the attention. He became a regular at exotic spots like the Dome and Crush Café, often accompanied by women dressed in figure-hugging gowns and designer heels. His spending was outrageous. Champagne showers, designer bags, and first-class tickets to Dubai for weekend getaways. Rosie remained oblivious to the full extent of Alex's betrayal. She still clung to the hope that he would come back to her. One Friday evening, Rosie called Alex to ask if they could spend the weekend together. He reluctantly agreed, though his tone lacked enthusiasm. The next day, Rosie decided to surprise him again, this time bringing along a weekend bag. She wanted to remind Alex of the simple moments they used to share. When she arrived at his house, Hassan hesitated again. "Auntie Ogaday house, but what?" Rosie asked, growing impatient. Hassan opened the gate reluctantly, and Rosie walked in. She froze the moment she stepped into the living room. Alex was seated on the couch, laughing with a woman who looked like she had stepped out of a fashion magazine. She was draped in a silk robe, her freshly manicured nails resting on Alex's thigh. For a moment no one spoke. Rosie stood there, her bag slipping from her hand. Alex glanced at her, his expression void of guilt. "Rosie," he said casually, as if her presence was an inconvenience. "You should have called." The woman smirked, clearly unbothered by Rosie's presence. "What's going on here, Alex?" Rosie finally managed to say, her voice trembling. Alex sighed and stood up. "It's good you came. I've been meaning to tell you. This isn't working anymore. You and we're not on the same level. Rosie's heart shattered. After everything we've been through, you're saying I'm not good enough for you? I've changed, Rosie, Alex said coldly. And you should too. Find someone who fits your life. Rosie stood there, her mind racing. The man she had loved, supported, and sacrificed for was gone. Without another word, she turned and walked out, leaving behind not just her weekend bag but also the future she had envisioned with Alex. As Rosie walked into the cool Abuja evening, tears streaming down her face, Alex returned to his seat, oblivious to the cost of his choices. Rosie spent the entire weekend in her small Garki apartment, replaying the scene she had witnessed at Alex's house. The image of him with that woman, laughing and unbothered, was seared into her mind. She couldn't understand how the man she had loved for years, the man she had supported through his toughest days, could cast her aside so easily. Her phone buzzed several times that weekend, but Rosie ignored it. She didn't want to talk to anyone. Not her best friend Amaka, who always had something to say, nor her family, who had long suspected that Alex wasn't as perfect as Rosie claimed. Instead, she poured herself into her work at the school on Monday morning, hoping to distract herself. But it wasn't easy. Every corner of Abuja reminded her of Alex. The suya spots they used to visit in Garki, the strolls at Jabi Lake Mall, the times they dreamed about building a life together. Meanwhile, Alex's life was a continuous party. He spent most of his time with his new crowd of friends and women, enjoying the perks of his wealth. His social media was filled with photos of him at high-end clubs in Was 2, sipping champagne and flaunting designer outfits. He was the center of attention wherever he went, and he loved every moment of it. Among the many women flocking to him was Nikki, a stunning socialite who had just moved to Abuja. Nikki had heard about Alex the Spender, as people called him, and she was intrigued. She was everything Alex's new lifestyle represented. Bold, glamorous, and unapologetically materialistic. One evening, Nikki approached Alex at an exclusive rooftop party in Maitama. She was wearing a sleek red dress that hugged her figure perfectly. "I've been hearing about you," she said with a coy smile. "Let's see if you live up to the hype." Alex grinned, clearly impressed by her confidence. "Well, Nikki, I guess you'll just have to stick around to find out." From that moment, Nikki became a regular in Alex's life. She was unlike the other women. She didn't just flatter him, she challenged him. And Alex, blinded by her beauty and charm, didn't notice the cunning glint in her eyes. For Rosie, life became a series of difficult adjustments. Her once vibrant personality dimmed, and her colleagues at work began to notice. During lunch breaks, she often sat alone, staring into the distance. Amaka, her best friend, finally cornered her one evening. "Rosie, you can't keep doing this to yourself," Amaka said as they sat in Rosie's living room. "I'm fine," Rosie replied, though her voice betrayed her. "No, you're not. Alex treated you like trash, and you're here acting like it's your fault. Wake up. You're better than this." Rosie sighed, tears welling up in her eyes. "Amaka, I just don't understand. After everything we went through together, how could he?" "Because he's selfish," Amaka cut in. "Some men can't handle loyalty. But you're stronger than this, Rosie. Don't let him break you." Those words stayed with Rosie. Slowly, she began to focus on herself. She started a side hustle selling Ankara fabrics online and began saving to take business courses. Back in Alex's world, things weren't as perfect as they seemed. Though he was surrounded by luxury and attention, his businesses began to show cracks. His excessive spending was draining his resources, and his once thriving real estate empire was struggling to keep up with Abuja's competitive market. Tund, Alex's closest friend and business partner, noticed the shift and tried to intervene. "Alex, we need to talk," Tund said one afternoon as they met at a cafe in Jabi. "About what?" Alex asked, sipping his overpriced cappuccino. "You're spending. It's getting out of hand. You're pulling funds from the company accounts for personal stuff, and it's affecting the business." Alex waved him off. "Relax. I've got this under control. No, you don't, Tun said firmly. You're living for these girls and these parties, but you're forgetting what got you here in the first place. Hard work and focus. Alex scoffed. Tund, I appreciate your concern, but I'm fine. Just let me handle it. But Alex wasn't handling it. His obsession with Nikki grew, and she was quick to capitalize on it. She began suggesting extravagant gifts, a diamond bracelet, a luxury car, even a trip to the Maldives. Alex, desperate to keep her impressed, obliged without hesitation. As Alex's world began to crumble, Rosie's started to rebuild. Her Ankara fabric business gained traction, and she received an opportunity to supply a large order to a boutique in Woos. For the first time in months, she felt a sense of purpose and pride. She still thought about Alex, but with each passing day, the pain lessened. She realized that she had placed her happiness in someone who didn't value her, and now it was time to reclaim it. What neither Alex nor Rosie realized was that their paths were on a collision course. Alex, blinded by his reckless lifestyle, and Rosie, quietly finding her strength, were heading toward a moment that would change everything. Alex's life was beginning to unravel, though he was too blinded by his infatuation with Nikki to notice. His once thriving real estate business was struggling to stay afloat as his reckless spending drained his accounts. His accountants warned him about looming financial trouble, but Alex dismissed their concerns. Nikki, on the other hand, had become the center of Alex's world. She played her part perfectly, showering him with just enough affection to keep him hooked. But behind her sweet words and dazzling smile, she was calculating her next move. One Friday evening, Alex invited Nikki to his favorite spot, an exclusive lounge in Maitama. He had ordered the most expensive champagne and a private booth overlooking the city. As they sipped their drinks, Nikki leaned closer. Alexi, she said with a flirtatious smile, I've been thinking about starting my own business. Alex raised an eyebrow. Oh, what kind of business? A luxury boutique. I want to bring high-end fashion to Abuja. Something exclusive. Alex nodded. That's a good idea. What do you need to start? Nikki's eyes sparkled. I've done the calculations. It'll cost about 50 million Nigerian nairas to set up properly. Alex's heart skipped a beat. He didn't have that kind of money readily available, but he couldn't let Nikki see him hesitate. Don't worry, baby. I'll make it happen. That night, Alex made the first of several desperate financial decisions. He borrowed heavily from his company's accounts, convincing himself that the boutique would be an investment. Meanwhile, Rosie was flourishing in her quiet way. Her Ankara fabric business had grown beyond her expectations, and she was gaining recognition among Abuja's fashion designers. She had just landed a deal to supply fabrics for a high-profile wedding in Asokoro. Rosie's confidence was slowly returning. She no longer felt the urge to check Alex's social media or wonder what he was doing. She was finally at peace. One afternoon, she bumped into Amaka at a cafe in Woos. Rosie, you look amazing, Amaka said, hugging her. Thanks, Rosie replied with a smile. I've been busy with work. Amaka beamed. I'm so proud of you. You've come a long way. By the way, have you heard about Alex? Rosie hesitated. No, and I don't want to. Well, let's just say his empire isn't as shiny as it used to be. Rosie nodded, choosing not to ask further questions. She had moved on, and Alex's troubles were no longer her concern. Nikki's boutique launched with much fanfare. The opening party was a lavish event, attended by Abuja's elite, and Alex was the proud sponsor. But behind the scenes, Nikki was growing restless. She had achieved her goal, and Alex was no longer as useful to her as he once was. One evening, as they sat in her boutique discussing future plans, Nikki dropped a bombshell. Alex, I think we need to take a break, she said casually. Alex stared at her in disbelief. What are you talking about? I just need space to focus on myself and my business, she said, avoiding his eyes. Alex felt the ground shift beneath him. He had poured millions into Nikki, And now she was walking away. "Nikki, after everything I've done for you." "Alex, don't make this about money," she said, cutting him off. "This is about me needing to grow. You'll be fine." Before Alex could respond, Nikki stood up, grabbed her bag and walked out, leaving him sitting in stunned silence. Alex's world began to crumble. His business accounts were nearly empty, and his debts were piling up. He sold his Range Rover to cover some of the losses, but it wasn't enough. His employees, who had once admired him, started quitting as salaries went unpaid. For the first time in years, Alex felt the sting of failure. He tried reaching out to his old friends, but most of them were nowhere to be found. Even Tund, his closest confidant, had distanced himself, tired of Alex's reckless behavior. One evening, as Alex sat alone in his now sparsely furnished duplex, he thought of Rosie. Memories of her loyalty and kindness flooded his mind. He realized too late that he had let go of the one person who truly cared about him. Fate, however, had its own plans. One Saturday, Rosie was delivering fabrics to a boutique inn when she spotted Alex standing by the roadside. He looked nothing like the confident Alex she once knew. His clothes were plain, his face unshaven, and his posture slouched. For a moment, Rosie considered walking past him, but something in his eyes made her stop. "Alex," she said cautiously. He turned, startled, and his eyes widened when he saw her. "Rosie." There was an awkward silence as they stood facing each other. "How are you?" Rosie asked politely. Alex sighed. "I've been better." Rosie nodded, unsure of what else to say. She could see the regret in his eyes, but she didn't feel the pain she once did. Instead, she felt a sense of closure. "Take care of yourself, Alex," she said softly before walking away. As Alex watched her leave, he realized that he had lost more than just his wealth. He had lost the one person who had truly loved him. Alex sat in his dimly lit living room in his Giuseppe duplex, staring at the empty bottles on the coffee table. His life had fallen apart faster than he ever imagined. The man once known as the spender was now a shadow of himself. His lavish parties were a thing of the past, his flashy cars were gone, and his once loyal circle of friends had disappeared. His phone buzzed on the table. He picked it up to find another reminder of his debts, this time from the bank. He had defaulted on a loan, and foreclosure on his duplex was imminent. For the first time in years, Alex felt the weight of true loneliness and despair. Faced with the threat of losing his home, Alex decided to sell the last of his assets, a plot of land he had purchased in Katamp. He called Tund, his old friend and business partner, to help him find a buyer. "Tund, please, I need your help," Alex said, his voice desperate. "Alex, I warned you," Tund replied coldly. "I told you to stop the reckless spending, but you didn't listen. I know I messed up, but please just help me this one time," Alex pleaded. After a long pause, Tund sighed. "I'll see what I can do, but don't expect much. Abuja's real estate market is tough right now." Days turned into weeks, and Alex's situation grew worse. The plot of land remained unsold, and the bank gave him a final notice to vacate his home. Meanwhile, Rosie's life was taking a different trajectory. Her Ankara fabric business had grown significantly, and she had opened her first physical store in Wuz. The store, named Rosie Stitches, was attracting high-profile clients, including politicians' wives and celebrities. Rosie had also enrolled in a business management course at a local institute, determined to expand her knowledge and grow her brand further. Her newfound confidence and independence shone through, and she was finally at peace with herself. Amaka, ever the supportive friend, often visited the store to help out. "Rosie, this place is amazing," Amaka said one afternoon as she browsed through the fabrics. "Thanks, Amaka. It hasn't been easy, but it's worth it," Rosie replied with a smile. "You've come so far, Rosie." "I'm so proud of you," Amaka said, giving her a tight hug. One sunny afternoon, Rosie was heading to a supplier's warehouse in Day Day Market when she spotted Alex again. This time, he was sitting outside a small roadside eatery in Garki, looking disheveled and lost. Rosie hesitated, her heart aching at the sight of him. She debated whether to approach him but decided against it. She had moved on and didn't want to reopen old wounds. However, Alex noticed her and called out, "Rosie." She turned reluctantly, and their eyes met. For a moment, neither of them spoke. "Can we talk?" Alex asked, his voice filled with a mixture of regret and hope. Rosie nodded slowly. "All right." They sat at a small plastic table under the shade of a tree. Alex looked at her, his eyes tired and filled with remorse. "Rosie, I don't even know where to start," he began. "Start with the truth," Rosie replied firmly. Alex sighed deeply. "I made a lot of mistakes. I let my success get to my head, and I hurt the one person who truly cared about me. I'm sorry, Rosie. I was blind, selfish, and foolish." Rosie listened silently, her expression unreadable. "I lost everything, Rosie. The money, the cars, the house. Even my so-called friends. And Nikki. She was just using me. She left as soon as she got what she wanted," Alex continued, his voice breaking. Rosie took a deep breath. "Alex, I'm sorry for what you're going through, but you made your choices. You had everything. My love, my support, and you threw it away." "I know," Alex said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I just wanted you to know that I'm truly sorry." Rosie stood up, her heart heavy. "I've forgiven you, Alex, but forgiveness doesn't mean things can go back to the way they were. I've moved on, and you need to do the same." As she walked away, Alex watched her, tears streaming down his face. He realized that he had lost more than material wealth. He had lost the only person who had ever truly cared for him. That evening, Alex returned to his empty duplex, now stripped of most of its furniture. He sat on the floor, staring at the walls, and reflected on his life. He had no one to blame but himself. With nowhere else to turn, Alex decided to reach out to his estranged family. His elder brother, Kunal, who lived in Lagos, agreed to take him in temporarily. "Alex, you'll need to start from scratch," Kunal told him over the phone. "But I'll help you if you're serious about turning your life around." Alex nodded, even though his brother couldn't see him. "I'll do whatever it takes." Alex's move to Lagos was bittersweet. Abuja had been the city of his dreams, where he rose to fame and fortune, but it also became the place where he lost everything. Now he was starting over in Lagos, living humbly in his elder brother Kunal's modest apartment in Surulere. Kunal was a no-nonsense man who believed in discipline and hard work. He ran a small logistics business and expected Alex to contribute to the household. "Alex, if you're going to live here, you'll have to work," Kunal said one evening as they ate dinner. "I understand, Kunal. I'll do whatever it takes," Alex replied earnestly. The next morning, Kunal took Alex to his logistics office. It was a small but efficient setup, with a handful of employees managing deliveries across Lagos. Kunal assigned Alex to work as a dispatcher, coordinating deliveries and occasionally running errands. At first, Alex struggled to adjust. The work was tiring and far removed from the luxurious lifestyle he once led. But over time, he began to appreciate the structure and purpose it gave him. Back in Abuja, Rosie was thriving. Her store, Rosie Stitches, had become a hub for fashion enthusiasts. She had just secured a contract to supply fabrics for a prominent fashion show, and her social media presence was growing rapidly. Rosie's success wasn't just financial, it was personal. She had regained her confidence and learned to prioritize her happiness. Amaka, ever the supportive friend, often teased her about her glow. "Rosie, you're shining like the Abuja sun. Are you sure there's no new man in your life?" Amaka joked one evening as they had dinner at a restaurant in Was2. Rosie laughed. "No new man, just a new focus. I'm building my empire, Amaka." "Well, you're doing an amazing job. I'm so proud of you," Amaka said sincerely. Meanwhile, Alex was beginning to rebuild his life in Lagos. Working at Connell's logistics company taught him the value of humility and hard work. He started saving a portion of his salary, determined to get back on his feet. One day, while making a delivery in Ikoyi, Alex struck up a conversation with a client, Mr. Adebanjo, who owned a chain of supermarkets. Impressed by Alex's polite demeanor and sharp mind, Mr. Adebanjo offered him a chance to manage inventory for one of his stores. "You're a smart young man, Alex. With your background in real estate, I'm sure you can handle this," Mr. Adebanjo said. Alex accepted the offer gratefully. Though it wasn't glamorous, it was a step in the right direction. Months turned into a year, and Alex began to regain some stability. He moved out of Connell's apartment into a small flat in Yaba and started attending evening classes on business management. During one of his trips to Abuja for a logistics conference, Alex decided to visit Rosie Stitches. He had heard about Rosie's success from mutual acquaintances and wanted to see it for himself. Walking into the store, Alex felt a mix of pride and regret. The shop was beautifully decorated, with rows of colorful Ankara fabrics neatly arranged. Rosie stood behind the counter, talking to a customer. When she saw Alex, her smile faltered for a moment before she composed herself. "Alex," she said, surprised. "What are you doing here? I heard about your store and wanted to see it." "It's amazing, Rosie. You've done so well," Alex said sincerely. "Thank you," Rosie replied, her tone polite but guarded. "I just wanted to say how proud I am of you, and to apologize again for everything I did." "You didn't deserve any of it," Alex said, his voice filled with regret. Rosie nodded. "I've moved on, Alex, but I appreciate the apology. I hope you've learned from everything." "I have," Alex said earnestly. "I'm trying to be better, to rebuild my life. And seeing you like this gives me hope." Rosie smiled faintly. "Take care of yourself, Alex." As Alex left the store, he felt a sense of closure. He knew that he and Rosie could never go back to what they once had, but he was grateful for the chance to make amends. That evening, Rosie reflected on the encounter. She felt no bitterness, only a quiet sense of triumph. Alex's downfall had taught her the importance of self-worth, and his apology reaffirmed her decision to focus on herself. However, life had more surprises in store. At a networking event a few weeks later, Rosie met Daniel, a soft-spoken entrepreneur who owned a chain of African-inspired fashion outlets. They bonded over their shared passion for promoting Nigerian culture through fashion. Daniel was kind, supportive, and grounded, everything Alex hadn't been. Over time, their friendship blossomed into something more. Rosie and Daniel's relationship blossomed gradually, built on mutual respect and shared dreams. Daniel admired Rosie's resilience and passion, while Rosie appreciated his humility and unwavering support. Together, they began collaborating on projects to promote African fashion and textiles, blending their businesses into a powerhouse in Abuja's fashion scene. One evening, as they strolled through Joby Lake Mall after a successful event, Daniel turned to Rosie with a smile. "You know, Rosie, you've completely changed how I see this industry. Your vision is inspiring," he said. Rosie laughed lightly. "You give me too much credit. We've been a great team." Daniel stopped walking, taking her hand. "It's more than that. You've been a great partner. Not just in business but in life." Rosie felt her cheeks flush as she looked into his eyes. She had never felt this level of connection before, and for the first time in years, she allowed herself to hope for a future filled with love and stability. In Lagos, Alex was also on a path of transformation. Managing inventory at Mr. Adebanjo's supermarket chain had taught him the importance of discipline and accountability. His efforts didn't go unnoticed, and after a year, Mr. Adebanjo promoted him to operations manager. Alex was now earning enough to live comfortably and had even started saving to venture back into real estate, though on a much smaller scale. The once arrogant Alexi the spender was gone, replaced by a man who valued hard work and humility. Despite his progress, Alex couldn't shake the memories of Rosie. He often thought about their encounter at her store, wondering if she had truly forgiven him. Fate brought Alex and Rosie together again at a business seminar in Abuja. Rosie was there as a guest speaker, sharing her journey of turning her passion for Ankara fabrics into a thriving business. Alex attended as part of a panel on sustainable entrepreneurship, representing Mr. Adebanjo's company. When Rosie walked onto the stage, dressed in a stunning Ankara gown, Alex felt a pang of admiration and regret. She was radiant, confident, and everything he remembered, only better. After the seminar, Alex approached Rosie hesitantly. "Rosie, hi," he said, his voice nervous. Rosie turned, surprised to see him again. "Alex, I didn't know you were here." "I was part of the panel," Alex replied, gesturing toward the stage. "You were amazing up there. Your story is so inspiring." "Thank you," Rosie said, smiling politely. They talked briefly, exchanging updates on their lives. Alex told her about his work in Lagos and his plans to return to real estate. Rosie shared her recent successes, though she avoided mentioning Daniel. "Rosie, I just want you to know that I'm genuinely happy for you," Alex said earnestly. "Thank you, Alex," Rosie replied. "I'm glad you're doing better too." As they parted ways, Alex felt a sense of closure. He realized that while he still cared for Rosie, he respected her decision to move on. A few months later, Daniel invited Rosie to dinner at a private rooftop restaurant overlooking Abuja's skyline. The atmosphere was romantic, with soft music and candlelight setting the mood. As they finished their meal, Daniel reached across the table and took Rosie's hand. "Rosie, meeting you has been the best thing that's ever happened to me," he began. "You're strong, intelligent, and beautiful. Everything I've ever wanted in a partner." Rosie's heart raced as Daniel got down on one knee, pulling out a small velvet box. "Rosie, will you marry me?" he asked, opening the box to reveal a stunning diamond ring. Tears filled Rosie's eyes as she nodded. "Yes, Daniel. Yes." The other diners erupted into applause as Daniel slipped the ring onto Rosie's finger. For the first time in years, Rosie felt truly happy and secure, ready to embrace this new chapter of her life. News of Rosie's engagement eventually reached Alex through mutual friends. Though it stung, he felt a sense of peace knowing she had found someone who valued and respected her. Alex threw himself into his work, determined to build a legacy of his own. He had learned the hard way that success meant nothing without integrity and meaningful relationships. Rosie's journey had come full circle. She had turned heartbreak into strength, betrayal into wisdom, and loss into success. Her story was a testament to the power of resilience and self-love. Alex, too, had grown from his experiences. Though he had lost Rosie, he had gained something invaluable, a sense of purpose and the humility to start over.